Hi there, welcome to Rider Bonsai and Cacti again. This week we're going to have a little bit fun with this small plant. I bought it at the local supermarket for €1. It's well, it's very difficult for me to pronounce the name. So this is this is the species. It's a very small. You cannot say leaf, but it has very small greenery. So I thought it could be perfect for a sort of very small bonsai tree. I don't know if we can call this mame, if this is a correct word for what we will be making, but okay. First, we're going to do something which I don't recommend anybody doing at this time of year. It's August, but I don't want to wait with this. I'm going to rake the roots a bit and see if we can get this thing in a bonsai pot. I've got some basic tools for this. I have to say I bought this little tree this morning and it was dry. The problem with these kinds of shops, supermarkets and other places where they sell trees like this, the problem with those shops is that they don't water the plants. So the plants, they arrive in the shops, they put them there, and well, maybe they didn't have water for a long time, and maybe they just had water, but the shop is not going to supply them with water. You can see I gave it a little bit of water, but on the inside the root mass is still very dry. But we will see. As I said, this is not the normal time to do root work, but for the sake of the plant and for the sake of the video, I'm going to try and get it in a nice little bonsai pot. I'm trying not to destroy too many roots. So just tease the roots, get some soil out of there, and of course you always destroy some of the roots, but try to do this as little as possible. So here is a clump of roots. Let me see. I think we can work with this. I think we can work with this. Some soil in the middle. So. Take this again. So, the pot which I selected is this one. And as you see, I already prepared it a little bit. So let's try to get my trusted bucket. This is not a mixture of substrate which I normally use. Normally I use a mixture of 1 part normal planting soil, 1 part of perlite, 1 part of little lava rock, and 1 part of bark, small bark. In this case, I decided for something else. Let us see if we can manage to put those roots in this little pot. And then we are going to work on the little tree itself. Why do I do this in this order? Well, we're doing this because it's a small tree, and if we're going to work on the tree with some wire, and then we are going to then wire it in, and maybe we are going to undo the wiring we did on the tree, and I didn't want this. So that's why we're doing this now. Yeah, it's okay because it's thin wire. You cannot do this too much, too strong, because then the wire will snap. So we're not going to put the soil in yet. And if you in the back, if you hear some dogs barking, those are our little rascals. They are coniferous. So in a later stadium we can remove this part of the root, but I don't want to do that now. So like I said, this is going to be a small tree, so that can go. And let's see what we have. We have a thick base, and as you can see, this is the thickest trunk, but it's quite straight. Let me see. I don't know if you can see this correctly. I didn't plan anything on this tree yet, so we're going to work on it the way we see fit, and try to reveal what we find. If this is going to be part of the front, then we're going to have to remove some of the growth, so we expose the trunk. Like I said, this is the thickest trunk, so maybe we should remove this one too. we can remove that. And clean it up a little bit later. This can be the first trunk. Let me see. We're making this up as we go. So what do we have here? I think this one needs to go. Both of them look too much like, if you leave them on, they look too much like a door handle. So we're not going to do that. And I think this one can go. I think it's time to wire a bit. Let's see, normally we can stick this into the substrate, but it doesn't have a lot of substrate yet. But luckily, we can anchor it between some roots. Because it's a small tree, it's a little bit more difficult for me to wire this because it's not easy to see everything and I don't want to damage the greenery. We don't need to wire all the way to the top because we're not going to use the whole length of the trunk. We're just going to let it rest there. If we need more length, then we're going to let's try to make it a little bit exciting. Maybe exciting is the right word. I think definitely exciting is the right word. So, so this already looks a bit more interesting than it did. Than a very straight tree. Here we have a few different different branches, and I think this one can go. This one we're going to shorten a bit. So later we can wire it a little bit more down. This one the angle is a bit more interesting if you do it like this, I think. And then we have a nice branch here, which we can shorten also. Let's see. It's still a bit too long. Maybe I would like to keep the top branch, because as you see it looks a little bit more like a really old branch. So I think it's still a bit long, but we can work with this. One of the basic things about bonsai is, of course, exposing the trunk. If you expose the trunk, then it looks more like a tree. A lot of greenery on the trunk means it's difficult to identify the plant as a tree, basically. Let me see. This one goes there. Let me think about this. Those two. This one is a little bit long also. So we're going to shorten that. And it gives us a little bit more depth. You see, if you put it like this, a little bit more depth. Yes, definitely. Well, normally you would wire this, but it's difficult to wire something which is so delicate, at least for me. It's difficult. So we're going to do something else. We're going to use guy wires. Attach this on the roots and attach the wire a little bit more like so. Let's see if this is doing okay. This is doing okay. So course, we have to be careful not to cut the greenery. And like this, it looks a little bit more like an old tree. How do you get, especially an evergreen, to look like an old tree? Well, what happens in nature is that the snow in winter, snow lies on the branches, especially the big branches. They bend and um, well, they stay like this, and that is part of the silhouette of an old tree. More like this. This one has to bend a little bit. Let's see how we are going to do that. Maybe just by cutting, because as I said, it's so delicate. The greenery is so delicate that we don't want to damage the greenery. So, this one. So, and we can do the same here. Make it look a bit more like a really old adult tree. And it looks very nice, I think. This one we're going to turn in a little bit. Let us take care of some of this stuff. Bonsai basics. In the middle of a curve, in the inside of a curve, no branches. Why? Well, because it doesn't look fantastic. That's the real reason. Let's see. Here are too many. But we're going to turn our little tree a bit. We can cut that one. We can cut this one. This one is caught between the wire, even though I tried not to do this. It's not too. This one needs to go too. So. Would be good if this one would go more for that. So we can try and make that big. So here we have to thin it out a bit. Thin it out. Make it less cluttered, less full, you know. A little bit like that. So let's turn it a little bit like this. So, and then what we can do is we can make this the apex, so the top of the tree, let it grow, or we can make this the apex. And it's supposed to be a small tree, so what we are going to do is make that the apex, the small one, I mean. So this we can cut like that. Do we want the little green? No, we don't want a branch there. So this is the apex. This is still too cluttered. Let's see about this. What are we going to do with this? What we can do is cut this away or take that one away. I think that works best. Let's turn it. So let's see how it works. That's the beauty of a turntable. You can turn any way you want. I think that looks okay. This is still a little bit too long. Why did I cut the little piece which stuck up on top? Well, like I said, we want to get the illusion of a tree with hanging branches, and well, by just cutting that little thing off, this looks like a branch which is hanging much more. The same goes for here. Cut that off, and a piece of that. You see how this works? I hope this is going to keep being a small tree the way we want. Now this is the back side. And like I already showed, we want the back side also to come down more. But at the same time, this is too cluttered. So what are we going to do? We're going to cut that little part off. And then as we pull this down, that little branch gives us a lot of depth. And how are we going to put it down? Well, with a little piece of wire. And it's going to indeed be a small piece, doesn't need to be long. So Let's do it like that. And then let's see what happens. Do you see that now? With one little piece of wire, there is much more depth in the tree. I'm a little bit concerned with this one. This one is too big also. Let's cut this off first. Like I said, to give the illusion of a tree with hanging branches. I think this works better, doesn't it? Or are we going to have to cut this? I don't think so. No, I don't think so. This one still needs to go. And if you want to make pads, and with evergreens you often try to make pads, then you cut off those ones on the bottom also, which means that that one has to go too. And I think we have quite a nice tree. This needs to go because there are two branches in very close proximity. We don't want this. This one, in an ideal world, would lie a little bit more like this. But it's not going to be easy to wire. But let's see if we can do this. It's a little bit more thick, so maybe we will succeed. I think we will. The thing is, the wire doesn't need to be completely tight around that little tree. Sorry, that little branch. You can do it like that, an open loop they call, and then bend this a little bit more. Like that. First of all, it's flat now, also flat. Second of all, it's pointing backwards, adding to the depth. And I think this is it for the trunk. We're going to take these roots, and now we have to fill the sand. We're going to use this as our little chopstick, filling in the air gaps between the roots, so we can make sure the roots are all filled in sand, so all the roots will get water as soon as we water the plant. Sounds a little bit strange, maybe. The dogs are barking again. Maybe sounds a little bit strange what I was saying about the water reaching the roots, but if there are air gaps in water, then two things can happen. The air gap can fill with water, so the roots will rot, or no water will reach the roots and they will dry. Whichever of the two will would happen, it would be bad. So, well, this is it for this time. I hope you enjoyed our little bonsai playing time. I have to say, um, I enjoyed it a lot, especially to do it together with all of you. Um, the result is, of course, not a old, accomplished bonsai. It's the beginning of a small bonsai tree. Start to train this tree, and it will take many years before the bonsai is a nice tree. It's a real bonsai. I'm just looking while we're talking to see if this needs to go. It's on the inside of a bend, but I don't want to cut too much of the greenery. So for now, I'm going to leave this, and the tree gets established, we can cut it again. So that one needs to go. This was it. Thanks for now, and see you next time.